Good evening, wrestling fans. We're your hosts, Lewis.
And Jaden.
And we're actually going to have a special guest, finally, our director and producer for the show, Yesenia De Leon, my lovely wife. And this is
Evolution of Pro Wrestling.
Welcome, fans, to another show. Our topic today is going to be women's wrestling. We're going to be talking about all the women in wrestling. I know this is a topic that many people have been wanting to see. I'm glad my wife came on the show and to speak about this topic. But before we get into this topic, we're going to do a quick recap on WrestleMania 35, which was an awesome card.
Mm-hmm.
We had AJ Styles against Randy Orton. AJ Styles took that victory. We had Roman Reigns against Drew McIntyre, which my wife is a big Roman Reigns fan. Roman Reigns did take that match, and his first match coming back since his battle with leukemia. John Cena returned
as the doctor of Thuganomics.
Exactly.
That's my favorite John Cena.
That was also a WrestleMania moment that a lot of people love to see.
Yeah.
Baron Corbin unfortunately beat Kurt Angle in the match, which I would have thought Kurt Angle would have won.
Yeah.
But
end off his
what can he do? Triple H and Batista. Triple H won that match. Awesome no holds barred match.
That was a really good match.
Kofi Kingston and Daniel Bryan. One of the best matches in the card. Kofi Kingston, after 11 years, finally won the WWE Championship and did his thing in the ring.
Absolutely.
Shane McMahon, The Miz. Awesome Falls Count Anywhere match. Shane McMahon did win that one. Tony Nese and Bobby Murphy. Tony Nese became the new Cruiserweight Champion at WrestleMania. Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins against The Revival. Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins shocked the world and won the tag team titles, surprisingly.
Yeah.
They took that victory. The men's battle royal. Braun Strowman ended up winning the battle royal, going through all those men. Samoa Joe and Rey Mysterio. Rey Mysterio unfortunately lost to Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe retaining his title. The Usos won a fatal four-way match to retain their tag team titles. Unfortunately, they lost it against the Hardy Boys this past Tuesday on SmackDown. Seth Rollins became the new Universal Champion by slaying the Beast.
Seth Rollins.
Thank God.
Very good match.
Very good match. Thank God the Beast is gone. I'm sorry,
Yes.
Brock, but Seth, I'm glad you won.
Yes.
Finn Balor.
The Demon
King returned and won the match for the Intercontinental title.
Oh, yeah.
Ups to him. Now we're going to get into the women's match. Carmella, shocker of all, won the Women's Battle Royal. Nobody thought that was coming, but she actually won. The Iconics, another shocker out of all people, won the Women's Tag Team Championship.
Pretty sure no one was going to think they were going to
Nobody saw that coming at all. Not even myself. I'm like, what?
I didn't see that coming. I was super surprised when I saw that.
Then the match of all matches. The first ever main event at WrestleMania for women main eventing. Becky Lynch wins it all. She takes the SmackDown and Raw Women's title, defeating Ronda Rousey and Charlotte Flair.
Yeah.
Excellent card, excellent finish. Now, when you talk about women's wrestling, it's not just wrestlers, it's also managers in this industry. Now, my wife's personal favorite is Sasha Banks.
Sasha Banks, the boss, baby.
Can you elaborate as to why she's your favorite?
Sasha, she just keeps it real, man. She keeps it real. She knows who the boss is, and when she steps in that ring, she puts all into it, and she takes care of it.
And that's why she's called the boss.
Yep.
You know, and Jaden, you had mentioned you knew a moment in women's wrestling history that you wanted to share with us.
Yes. Now, these ladies surprisingly are catching up to the men with making history.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, example, the Women's Royal Rumble, which was won by Asuka. That was a phenomenal match.
The first ever Women's Royal Rumble.
The first ever to top it off was a great match. And another example, the first ever Women's Battle Royal.
At WrestleMania last year, yes. And that's Naomi took that Battle Royal.
Guys, you have to understand, women are coming up in all aspects of life. Women are coming around, professional wrestlers. There's a lot of indie wrestling women that are amazing coming up in the industry, and they've just been taken over. I mean, it's phenomenal that last year they had the first Women's Royal Rumble, and it was an amazing event. And this year's Women's Royal Rumble, I think that took the show because the women's matches in this year's Royal Rumble were amazing as well.
Of course, and that's what made it more interesting, and what made this year's WrestleMania so special.
Absolutely.
That
Yeah.
it was the first ever in 35 years of WrestleMania that women main evented a pay-per-view.
Yeah.
And mind you, they also made history by having the first ever women's pay-per-view,
Yeah.
Evolution, which was an awesome card. You had the main event was Ronda Rousey and Nikki Bella, which was a dream match for everybody to see.
No, everybody was waiting for that one.
Of course. And Ronda Rousey, I listen, by far, I have to say she has become an excellent heel.
Yeah.
Like, that character is coming out of her.
A lot of people wanted to see that.
No, of course. And nobody thought that was going to come out of her. That type of demeanor
Yeah.
to assault referees, assault the talent, and when you talk about her matches that she's had matches with Nia Jax. Sasha Banks, out of all people, she beat Sasha Banks, which nobody thought that would happen. You also have another history-making event, the Elimination Chamber. The first ever women's Elimination Chamber that was phenomenal, and one match that Sasha Banks and Bayley won the first ever Women's Tag Team Championship in the Elimination Chamber. Also, Sasha Banks and Charlotte Flair also made history with the first ever Hell in a Cell for the women's title. What do you think of that, Yesenia? When it comes to certain things like that, to fight in a cell, an iconic cell of over 15 feet high, full of this metal structure that is so dangerous, you can end your career at any
Can
moment.
do damage.
I mean, that just goes to show that put a woman in a cage and you're not going to contain her. I mean, these women are coming up and doing just as much damage as the men are these days. These women are fearless and they're going in the ring and they're showing you what they can do.
Absolutely. And a prime example, the men's Royal Rumble. Nia Jax came out at number 30 and attacked R-Truth just to get into the Royal Rumble. And she was wrecking havoc until she got RKO'd and she got thrown out, unfortunately. But she
stepped it up and she stepped in that ring with those men.
Exactly.
Yes.
No, and that's why
fearless.
Exactly. That's why they call her the irresistible force.
Yeah.
Because she is that good to get in the ring. I'm surprised they haven't put the tag team titles on her and Tamina Snuka yet, because these two are two women not to be messed with.
Those are two scary women.
Of course they are.
Scary
You couldn't pay me to get in the ring with them. So and when you talk about certain things like that, it's good to see that WWE is finally paving the way, just wrestling in general, paving the way for women talent, women's wrestlers.
Now, going back to demonic structures, crazy structures, we had the first ever women's Money in the Bank match.
Absolutely.
That was won by Carmella.
Exactly.
Carmella won that Money in the Bank.
She won that Money in the Bank.
And then she came back and cashed it in to win
to win the SmackDown champion.
Charlotte Flair and win the SmackDown champion.
Exactly.
Don't be fooled. Carmella's coming.
Carmella's
stepping it up herself. You think she's the underdog, but she's gonna come in and
she's coming
and
hard.
She's taking it. Yeah, she's taking it all the way, and she wants to be a champion just like everybody else.
No, absolutely.
You better watch out for her.
Absolutely. And those are things you got to look out for. Another thing that I saw this week, that we kind of saw a different side of Bayley. Bayley has had this aggressive attitude. Like, she really roughed up her talent this week on Monday night. And people are thinking that she might be doing a heel turn, which would be very interesting for Bayley to do, despite the fact that she is this hugger and likes the fans. But
everybody likes her as a hugger. I wouldn't see her
we know
as
Bayley as the nice person.
I would like
to see her as a heel.
Quite frankly, I would like to see that change. I would like to see that character come out and to see what she can do with it.
Maybe
because
she could take it a long way and people will take her seriously then.
Exactly.
Make her a champion.
Exactly. No, but that's the thing. That's what brings out this talent from the women wrestling. When you got Charlotte Flair was one of them. She became this awesome heel. She left her father behind. So you know what? I'm going to do this by myself. I'm going to take the brass ring and take over. And that's what happened. She took over. She became, I believe, 4 or 5 time champion. Mm-hmm. And she is just as good as her father, probably better in the ring.
That's pretty good.
And you also had a rivalry before in NXT, Bayley and Sasha Banks. these two knew each other so well that in NXT they battled for the NXT Women's Championship, and Bayley did win. And that's when Sasha Banks made it to the main roster and said, you know what? I'm the boss. I'm coming to wreak havoc.
Somebody.
Exactly. With somebody's butt in the women's division.
Behind.
You know, and you also got not just wrestlers, you have famous managers. The lovely Miss Elizabeth. God rest her soul. Manager of the Macho Man. She was the one who started having women in the business because she became the first lady in wrestling in the WWE. Then you have the likes of Sensational Sherry. You had Luna Vachon. You know, you had other managers that are out there. You had Tori Wilson that came into the industry. Kelly Kelly. Lita was a Hall of Famer.
She was hardcore.
Yeah, Lita and Trish Stratus. Those two had a
those
rivalry
two, yeah.
in they main evented for the first time Monday Night Raw for the women's title. You know, and that's what caught everybody by surprise that wow, we got some females actually main eventing shows, main eventing other events.
And you know the funny thing that made it so crazy was Lita? Lita wasn't just a regular wrestler who just went into the ring and did her thing. Lita was a wrestler to jump off the top ropes, jump through the ropes, jump off of tables, ladders, do anything.
She did all that stuff.
Yeah, she did all of it.
No, but
another prime example of women taking over and fearless. These women are strong, and in the past they were called divas, and I never understood why they were called divas, because a diva is not a nice term for a woman. A diva is someone who can't be satisfied easily, like a spoiled brat almost. And these women aren't divas. These women are warriors, and they're fearless.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
And when you talk about fearless, Yesenia, you talk about the ninth wonder of the world, China. Who just got put in the Hall of Fame last Saturday, which she was well deserved. She took on the best. She took on Jeff Jarrett. She took on Mark Henry. She took on Eddie Guerrero, the late Eddie Guerrero, for the title. She took on many talented, and the first female wrestler to ever enter a Royal Rumble. First ever in 1999.
Amazing.
Yeah. Then, which paved the way for Beth Phoenix to enter the 2010 Royal Rumble. You know, and Beth Phoenix is another one. She just came out of retirement to fight a tag team match with Natalya for the tag team championship. And speaking of Natalya, she's also another one in the Hart, from the Hart family. You know, her late father, Jim Neidhart, who made the Hall of Fame as well with the Hart Foundation. She is a leader in the women's locker room.
Yeah.
She's been a part of the business for over 16 years. She leads this company with the women in the locker room. She's a leader. She tells, okay, this is what you should do. This is how you should do it. And a lot of people listen to her because she knows what she's doing. Yeah, she's won a title here and there. But just because she hasn't won a title all the time doesn't mean she's not good.
But she has the experience.
Exactly. She has the experience and knows what to do and how to prepare for a match. You know, and when you also talk about women, you got Fabulous Moolah. Old school. Her and Mae Young. Those two transcended the business in the 80s, in the old time.
Before I was even born.
Exactly.
Mae Young was
She
funny.
won the very first NWA Women's Champion.
Exactly. She paved the way. And she was a WWE champion for over 26 years.
I didn't know that.
Yep.
Pretty cool.
Over 26 years she held that title.
But there wasn't many women out there at that time yet.
No.
Right?
I'd say probably Rockin' Robin was the one that beat her at WrestleMania 1 for the title, which was the first ever female match at WrestleMania between those two. She won, but eventually Fabulous Moolah won the title probably about a month later, a couple of weeks later. Because, come on, this is Fabulous Moolah you're talking about. She's the queen of wrestling. You know, but I would love to see certain female wrestlers go up against each other just to see how it would go.
Can we quickly talk about Asuka real quick?
Of course, that's another one.
Yes,
Look at
I
that.
was just about to mention that.
we can never
She
forget
won the
about
very
Asuka.
first
She
Women's
won the
Royal
very-
Rumble
yes.
Absolutely.
last year in 2018, and I mean, she was on a roll. She was on fire, and then we completely forgot about her. Where is Asuka right now? Why haven't we seen her present in more events?
That's a good question, and that's what some people want to find out. You know, she dominated in NXT. She had an undefeated streak of over 150 matches.
That takes a lot.
Like undefeated. And then she comes to WWE. She's still undefeated, wins the Royal Rumble, fights Charlotte Flair. You know, unfortunately, she lost to Charlotte Flair. The streak was over. But to me, WWE is really, really messing up her character. She has talent. This woman is so...
She's very talented.
She's very talented.
We want to see
She's,
more
of course we want to see more of her. She's awesome. And you know what? And this is why I always say it always works. Put that woman as a heel, she will wreak havoc in the WWE.
I mean, look at her when she first started. She came from NXT, like you said, undefeated. That's a lot going from NXT into the WWE as an undefeated person. So yes, I honestly believe that if she turns heel, she will go.
She will go to new heights.
Super crazy.
She will go to new heights that I think I would not mind seeing a match between her and Ronda Rousey.
Yeah.
Whoa,
those two right there would just destroy each other. You know what I mean?
Well, listen, Becky Lynch has 2 titles. She needs some opponents.
There you go.
Maybe they'll make a match out of that.
That is no, and then we saw a rivalry going on between Lacey, who just came from NXT, also went into the Royal Rumble this year. She went after Becky Lynch. Wow. You know, there's a rivalry going there.
There's these newbies that
There's this new talent that's trying to come up and make a name for themselves and see how it's gonna go.
Well, I wouldn't take them lightly if I were anybody in the main roster, because the Iconics debuted last year?
Last year.
The Iconics debuted last year, and they came back and they kicked some butt. Mm-hmm. They really did their thing. Just quickly, they started at, I have some information on them, Pro Wrestling Women's Alliance. They debuted and NXT debuted in 2016, and they won the End of the Year award. They did better as a tag team, so they kept them together. Mm-hmm. And they were both nominated for Female Competitor of the Year. Neither one of them won, but it's good to be nominated. Mm-hmm. That means that somebody's looking, mm-hmm. somebody's watching.
Absolutely.
And then they finally debuted SmackDown on April 10, 2018. Where they attacked Charlotte Flair, and that allowed Carmella to cash in.
Exactly.
And beat Charlotte Flair and take that championship. Mm-hmm. But listen, they're the underdogs. They just debuted, and they're title holders right now. So, I mean, don't take these new women lightly either.
No, absolutely not. And you talk about other great champions and other great talent wrestlers, Alexa Bliss. She was the host of WrestleMania this year. Mm-hmm. That she was privileged to be a part of WrestleMania, being the host and seeing the women's main event. But she has her share of winning the title as well.
Yeah.
As well as she wants to get that fire back to just go the way she used to when she beat Nia Jax and when she fought talent like Sasha Banks or Asuka and Ronda Rousey. You know what I mean? Ronda Rousey, she might go on a hiatus, she might not. But I hope she comes back with that same attitude to just
she's gonna come back with more fire.
Exactly, just to come with more fire.
She's gonna come back with more fire.
Absolutely, and that's what we want to see. And I'm telling you, fans, Vince McMahon, if you're hearing WWE, put Asuka and Ronda Rousey in the ring. I guarantee you, it will sell tickets. Yes. A lot of fans will want to see that. I promise you. And I'm telling you, when you got women like that, Sensational Sherry, she's an old school wrestler, but she was also a manager. Unfortunately, not with us anymore. She managed wrestlers such as Shawn Michaels, Ted DiBiase, certain people in WCW, which I can't think of at the top of my head. Mm-hmm. But she brought that energy, that heel out of these wrestlers. She brought the Heartbreak Kid out of Shawn Michaels when she first managed him. Ted DiBiase, she also managed him and brought that heel to, like, everybody's got a price.
Yeah.
You know, Elizabeth, again, back to Elizabeth. Macho Man's career transcended with that woman by her side. She did everything for him. She set up his matches. She did his valet. She did it all. Luna Vachon, crazy woman. God rest her soul. She's another one not with us. She paved the way for the women in the 90s. For wrestlers like Sable. Sable came in with Mark Merrow. Sable was also one of the greats as a female champion that she took on Tori Wilson. She took on Ivory, who's also a famous wrestler at the time that she's also in the Hall of Fame. Those two had a battle going back then in the Attitude Era in SmackDown. So if you had a choice, Yesenia, to see the talent from back then and now, which would you prefer?
Oh no, I would definitely go back then. Those women were more hardcore. Those women played no games. They got in the ring and they wreaked havoc. So I think I would go back. I mean, I didn't watch a lot of wrestling as a child, but I remember China. I remember watching some of her matches, and it was inspirational.
No, exactly. And then Stephanie
She took
McMahon
over.
is another one.
Oh,
Stephanie
yeah.
McMahon was another one that.
We forgot about
Oh
that.
no, we can definitely not
CEO.
forget about Stephanie McMahon.
She's a McMahon, for
She,
goodness
of
sake.
course, she has her father's attitude.
Yeah.
She was one that she just pretty much, I'm the boss.
Yeah,
I'm gonna do what I
is
do.
the boss.
Exactly, and she had a
That's what she wants.
no, and she had an awesome match. Two of them, may I add. One with Nikki Bella, Brie Bella, at SummerSlam,
Okay.
and at WrestleMania with her and her husband Triple H against Ronda Rousey and Kurt Angle, which by far at that
She held her
WrestleMania,
own.
exactly,
She held her
which
own.
they
Stephanie
say,
McMahon did her
which they say to this day was the match of the night.
Well, let's not forget, Stephanie McMahon also slapped Ronda Rousey
Oh
in the
yeah,
face.
of course, and that's what made that's what that's what made the rivalry happen because of McMahon. The McMahon stirred up the pot,
Yeah.
and that's what made the match at WrestleMania. You know, and at the time back then too, in the Attitude Era, she had a fierce rivalry with Trish Stratus because supposedly she thought Triple H was dating Trish Stratus and doing a whole bunch of stuff.
Uh-oh.
Oh no.
So that's what caused the friction between those two. And Trish Stratus is an awesome talent as well.
She is.
Hall of Famer. She came back at the Women's Royal Rumble of last year as well. You know, and Tori Wilson was just put into the Hall of Fame. Another excellent wrestler. Unfortunately, our prayers go out to her father who passed away 3 days before her induction in the Hall of Fame. But she deserved that Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Women now, especially also in the indies, you have women in the indies training. You have like Atomic Revolutionary Wrestling, Destiny.
She's
Destiny.
crazy.
She's an awesome talent.
Atomic
She's
champion.
good.
Exactly.
She's
And
insane.
exactly, and she's going to be competing May 10th and defending her title, which is something we're going to see that event.
Yeah, I can't wait
You
for
know,
her to wrestle.
exactly.
I'm absolutely looking forward to that.
No, and and this is one thing I want to put out there. When myself and my son went to a wrestling school, we saw a young lady there, a female there that was actually keeping up with the men, like actually battling with the men, which means there's nothing that women can't do that men can do. The women are just as good as the men in the ring.
Anything they can do, we can do better.
Exactly. Well, I wouldn't say better, but you know, it's good to see that the women are actually transcending in this business. and
Basically,
see-
the men are underestimating
no,
the
they
women.
were, but I think they've seen them as equal.
I
now.
think some of them. I think a few of them are still underestimating them, but some of the women are still getting there. They're
No,
not
listen.
stopping,
Let me tell
but
you
they're
something.
still getting there.
If Triple H is willing to take a body slam and an arm throw from Ronda Rousey, a hip toss from Ronda Rousey, I give that man my respect.
Yeah.
Because you taking that beating from a woman, and a woman that just came into the wrestling business, and you're making her look good and putting her over, that's the best thing you can do for business. Because when you are in this industry, everyone is looking to make a name for themselves.
Absolutely.
Women, men, referees, managers, you know, and I think, and this is not just saying it because you're on the show, my wife, women have come a long way. Because there was many times that women couldn't even main event. There was times women couldn't even wrestle in a match because they were so focused on the men main eventing or making an impact.
Because they didn't take into consideration how much these women can do in the ring. They, like he said, they underestimated them, and all they did was the women came out and proved them wrong.
Exactly, and that's what made it so special that a lot of people were fighting for Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair, and Ronda Rousey to main event WrestleMania.
Not even
Everybody
that,
was
dude.
talking about Seth Rollins and Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Brock Lesnar is trash.
He's old news.
He's old news. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Putting the women in the main event was the best thing they could have did.
Yeah.
That's it. That's what made the card more exciting because everybody wanted to see it. And that's what made it great. Same thing with that Fatal 4-Way Tag Team match. I sure as hell never thought the Iconics were going to win. I looked like, are you kidding me?
I mean, hey, they proved everyone wrong, though.
Like, wow. Like, no, they absolutely
They
did.
proved
Because
everyone
nobody
wrong.
thought
No
they were
one
going to
thought they were
win.
going to win that.
But they
They
did.
proved themselves.
But they
They
did.
proved them wrong.
And that's what counted. But you also see this year, I guarantee you next year's Royal Rumble coming up is going to be just as great as last year's Royal Rumble. Which by far was like, wow. I still talk about it to this day with the first ever Women's Royal Rumble.
Yeah. That was an insane Royal Rumble.
Asuka, who did Asuka fight in that one? Becky Lynch?
She fought Becky Lynch. That was this year's Royal Rumble when
That was
Becky
this
Lynch
year.
won the Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. She came in as a fill-in
She did.
for Lana.
For Lana, because Lana got injured.
Exactly. And then Becky Lynch got injured because Nia Jax pushed her off the stairs and she hurt her leg. But surprisingly, she still ended up coming back, throwing Asuka over the top rope and winning the Women's Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
That's another thing. She did not give up. She said, no, I'm going to continue. I'm going to fight. I'm going to go to WrestleMania. Even when she got suspended by Vince McMahon, he said, hell no. You are not taking this match away from me. And she stood with it. And even Ronda Rousey said, I want Becky Lynch in that main event.
See, that's what it is about these women nowadays. These women never give up. They want their chance. They want their chance. They're going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing.
Absolutely.
Until they finally get that chance.
Absolutely. And that's what
Do we know anything about these new new women coming out? Nikki Cross.
Nikki Cross.
yes.
Oh my God. She made her
mean,
debut on Monday Night Raw as a surprise partner with Sasha.
Insane.
That lady's scary.
No, she's good. I love the way she acts.
Yeah.
Like just her personality. Like she's not scared of anything.
Yeah.
She made her debut with Sasha Banks and Bayley in a 6-man tag team match.
Yes.
And it was just like, wow.
Pretty good.
I said, this woman is crazy, but she's great.
Yeah.
And I can see her also going into the ranks and having these battles, with these female wrestlers,
with
these
more
women.
experienced women. She came in from NXT.
Mm-hmm. She sure did. And she came up with a bang.
Yeah.
She came up strong, and
Do we remember people like Layla Ali?
Layla Ali. Layla Ali is not in wrestling, but she was an inspiration to women.
To women in the wrestling business.
She
doesn't need to be a competitor or a talent to be an inspiration in the wrestling world. I mean, she was an inspiration to me.
No, she was definitely an inspiration. Layla Ali is the daughter of the late great Muhammad Ali.
Well, yes, I know that, but like
she was a boxer.
Okay.
But a lot of women that saw her fight in boxing, female wrestlers saw her fighting in boxing, said if she can have this dream and fight and prove that we're just as good as the men in boxing, the women can do it in wrestling.
Yeah.
Like they say, if the men can wrestle, we can do it too, and we can do it better. Yeah. Some people have different opinions on this topic because it touches a lot of people differently. Some people find it negative, some people find it positive. You could take it as you want. Believe it or not, the women are moving up the ladder and taking over professional wrestling.
Yeah.
In some aspects, in some promotions, they might not like it, some they do. But you got to give the women respect. There was a quote that I saw, and I know I'm going to regret this when I say this. Roman Reigns said it. If women get pregnant and they can take a baby for 9 months, they sure as hell can main event WrestleMania.
Absolutely.
So we got to give them that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I know this is controversial, but that's what it's about.
Yeah.
Women are paving the way in the industry.
Women have lots of rights now.
Exactly.
And women can do so much, and they're CEOs, and they're they're doctors and they're lawyers and they're everything, and women are all over.
Absolutely.
Women are taking over.
No, absolutely. And this is it's going to be interesting to see where this goes after WrestleMania. Because remember, next week is going to be interesting, which we're going to mention at the end of the show, which is coming up. When you talk about certain brands, Raw and SmackDown, we want to know where these women are going to be going to.
Where they're going to end up.
Exactly.
We're excited to see.
Exactly. Which brings us to, unfortunately, the end of the show, which I had a great show with these.
Let's just quickly give these women a round of applause.
Yes,
you guys
absolutely. Absolutely. They had
because these women are doing amazing.
Yeah,
exactly. They're doing amazing, and I love watching them.
Yes.
And unfortunately, this is the end of our show. Tune in next week, which is why we said tune in, because we're going to have the topic of the Superstar Shakeup from Monday Night Raw and SmackDown. You don't know who's going to Raw. You don't know who's going to SmackDown. It could be female talent, male talent. It's one you're not going to want to miss, and a show that you're definitely going to want to tune in, because we're going to give our input on this Superstar Shakeup as to why we think it was a good job, a good decision to do the Superstar Shakeup. And we also going to have our, negativity or comments, our opinions on it. So tune in next week, Friday, 8 p.m. Jaden, my producer and director and super guest, Yesenia De Leon, my lovely wife, and myself, Louis. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you for watching.